So now that you have an idea of why we are giving this OER project and also the learning objectives that we expect you to deliver, let me now give you the way in which, or let us say the mechanism through which we are going to implement OER process or OER project, OER assignment as part of this FDP. So creation of the open education resource is not just sufficient. So we could all create PowerPoint slides or Moodle activities or even let us say videos, but that is not sufficient. Though it is necessary, that is not just sufficient as part of this OER activity. You should also detail out the how and the why of the entire process. So let us say for an example, you created a flipped classroom video, a set of flipped classroom videos for your own course as part of the OER activity. I mean, video by in its own merit, it's a valid open education resource, and you have provided, you have uploaded it in YouTube or Google Drive or some place and you are submitting it, but that alone is not sufficient. So let us say somebody else wants to create a similar video, or somebody else wants to know why you created this video or what all are involved in this video. So they should also know all those aspects, like what software did you use, why did you specify, I mean focus on specific contents, why are you talking only of some aspects of the broad concept. All these information has to be given to a consumer so that your open education resource is truly effective. So this is just like saying you give the resource and also give a how to document of how to use this resource effectively in classroom. Then the loop is complete. So you have the working resource and you also have a document on how to do this entire activity. So we will be asking you to create an OER design document which has to be submitted for peer assessment. So as a peer, you will be assessing somebody else's OER creation process. So you will be assessing actually both the process and the product, and you will be providing marks for both. So I will detail out the various sections in the document. So this is like a project report. So you created something, for example over here it is an open education resource. So you are consider that as a project, a group project. Now this particular document is the group project report that you write, and your peer is going to evaluate your work based on this group project report. So the team assignment submission template, it describes the process and the product of the OER assignment. Basically it consists of several sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6th is a optional section which you can try to do if you want to build a community. So there are 6 sections in total. So section 1 is your introduction or introducing the OER. It should contain a brief overview of the OER, a rationale for the OER creation along with possible learning objectives associated with OER. So suppose you have created, let us say, a video. What are the learning objectives, student learning objectives of the video? It should clearly specify who the target audience are for that particular resource. It should also say the characterizing features or tags that will uniquely identify the OER. So for example, you create a video for, let us take a topic of trigonometry, Pythagoras theorem. So the tags, and it could be a video resource, a video, a flipped classroom video, out of class video for explaining Pythagoras theorem to your students. So tags of this particular video could be mathematics, Pythagoras theorem, video, then any other additional features like trigonometry that is going to uniquely identify your resource. These are known as the tags, and these should also be provided. Tools used in OER creation. Now by tools, so supposing you have created a video, it could be tools are Screencast-O-Matic, you have used PowerPoint for your slides. So if you have used animations, say the appropriate, so it could be a flash based animation, or you yourself would have created an animation in Blender. So there are different tools that you use for creating this open education resource. So this has also to be provided, and the overview should also contain the appropriate CC BY license that you are providing to this resource. So this provides an introduction about the OER. Section 2, so while designing anything, you make a lot of decisions. Now with open education resource, since the resource is meant for education, you will be making decisions of 3 types. It could be a pedagogy decision, it could be a decision about the content, or it could be a decision about the technology. So the section 2 deals with the different types of decisions that you have made while creating the OER. So some of the typical examples are type of questions to ask in a flipped classroom activity, the content area that need to be explored, some of the examples that have to be provided. Let's take the case of that Pythagoras theorem video. So the content decision is, yes, Pythagoras theorem. So specifically what type of examples should be provided? So in terms of technology decision, should I use Screencast-O-Matic, or should I use, let's say, some other things like Cam Studio? All these decisions, and something like, should I create a learning dialogue video followed by learning by doing activity? These are the pedagogic decisions. So these are some kind of decisions that you make while creation of any OER, and each of these decisions have to be recorded because it will decide how your OER has been. So the consumer knows, so the person who is evaluating your OER knows why you have selected a particular topic, why you have used a particular tool, or why have you made certain decisions you have taken, why your OER is like this, and it has to be communicated. So supposing it is useful in the way that, supposing they to design their own OER, they know what kind of decisions they have to take for creating an OER like a video. Now section 3 is the description of OER. So it should have a link to the open education resource, screenshots or screencasts that explains the various aspects of OER. So for example, this is if it is a Moodle quiz, it should have screenshot of the settings. It could also be a screencast of how these settings have to be changed. So for example, how to set the quiz deadlines, how to make it acceptable to all. So it could be done either as a screenshot or as a screencast. A detailed description of how to use the OER in regular teaching learning. See, mind you, you are all creating teaching learning resources. So along with the description of OER, you should also provide some possible ways in which this particular resource can be used in your own teaching learning. So for example, if it is Moodle quiz, then you should provide instruction as to when to give this quiz, how to set it up, typically how much days should students be given access to, given time to attempt, how to avoid, let's say, copying, should it be done as an online quiz. And please note that if you are creating any such open education resource, let's say even a Moodle activity, you should provide an active link to the resource. So by active we mean that supposing your peer tries to look at your resource, they should not faced with any login issues. So for example, if it is a Moodle, then you have to provide proper username, password. If it is a video, it should not be a private video, it should be a even if it is it has to be listed in YouTube, you should not put it as unlisted or completely private. So it should be unlisted, public, all these options. Somebody needs to actually look at your resource to understand what you have created. So make it active. And for Moodle logins, give a dummy login, a guest or student login with which others can actually look at your resource. Now section 4. Now this is a very interesting thing that you have to do over here. Section 4 details about how you are going to measure effectiveness of the open education resource that you have created. Now effectiveness can be, so essentially this section tries to answer the question, how do I know that my OER is effective? So I have created a Moodle quiz. How do I know that this quiz is effective? So the quiz is effective if more users find it useful and are able to create the quiz from my description. So I created a Moodle quiz, I provided screenshots and activities along with that particular resource. So some ways in which some possible evaluation plans. Identify 3 important aspects of the OER: ease of use, concept coverage, concept complexity, and ask the user to rate the resource. So this is basically take a feedback survey on these 3 aspects. Upload the quiz in a web page and track the number of views and downloads. So if more people viewed and downloaded it, it means that more people find it effective, the open education resource is effective. Get user details of the person accessing the resource and send him a feedback survey via email. So you could, if there are mechanisms through which you can get the person's name or email address, then you can ask them individually. So this is one mechanism of doing it. So so effectiveness of the OER in terms of how, so it's not the student use that we are actually measuring by this effectiveness, it is the effectiveness of the open education resource. So there are lots of projects, how effective is the project? So there are lots of, so let's look at GitHub or SourceForge. There are lot of what do you say, open source projects that are available in this particular GitHub website. How do you know that a particular project is more effective? If somebody has forked it to their own or cloned it to their own repository, or it could be that somebody has actually worked on, more number of people are working on the project. All these are some sort of metrics, evaluation metrics to understand effectiveness of your open resource. So similarly, you have to identify the metrics with which you will evaluate it. So this is only the your idea of metrics that we want to capture over here. You need not actually, so at this point you need not implement it, but this is for you, for a check. It also acts as a check for yourself as to how am I going to know that my OER is more effective, how will I evaluate it. So this section is very important. And section 5, it is the consolidated log of teamwork. So each participant has to log their individual effort, and as a team you have to consolidate all the team members' logs and provide it as a section 5 in the document. And section 6, it is actually an optional section. So if you want to build a community of practice around the OER, participants should detail out plans for building collaborative community to promote development and dissemination of these open education resources. The plan should contain number of collaborators and a brief overview of resources. So some possible examples would be forming a group in RC and creating a YouTube channel for uploading new screencasts. So let's say all of you are working on different screencasts. As an RC, you create a channel and all of you upload your screencast into this channel. Collecting and uploading resources from the same domain in a website. So gathering everything, classifying it and uploading it in a single website. That is also a community building exercise. So collaborating to develop question bank for Moodle quiz for a course. So essentially for this OER you may work on maybe one module, one topic or two topic at the maximum. But let's say at the end of the OER creation, you find people who are working on a similar course. Let's say all of you collaborate to build a full Moodle question repository for that particular course. That is also an effective plan for OER. But again, as this is something that we wish that you do at the end of this particular FDP, this particular aspect we will not evaluate, but we will leave it to you to see whether you can develop a community. So with this, let me just explain the evaluation criteria. So you saw the deliverables in a previous slide. So I am just going to look at the detail out the assessment strategy. So first, expected deliverable is OER. It has to be submitted as a Moodle in Moodle as a database activity we will show you what we mean by this in the following slides. So it should be a valid OER linked or attached in document with appropriate CC BY license. So if you have provided a valid link and provided a valid CC BY license, it will fetch you 3 marks. This is going to be evaluated by IIT Bombay team. So please note that if you do not put appropriate CC BY license, you will not get any mark for this activity. So you have to ensure that appropriate license is there, it is open. Tags for OER. So what we are going to do is number of useful tags provided for identification in the same database activity in Moodle. So having 3 to 5 useful tags will fetch you 1 mark, and having more than 5 useful tags will fetch you 2 marks. So maximum marks is 2. So you can think of any number of tags as you want, but if it is between 3 to 5, so 3 is minimum number that we need. If it is less than 3, we will not give you any mark. If it is more than 5, we will give you 2 marks. This is the bulk of the marking. 25 marks are completely given for the submission and the evaluation that you are going to do. 15 marks will be for the detailed documentation that you do, and 10 marks for the evaluation. Now please note that we are going to evaluate the team. So team leaders are going to submit, and they are also they will coordinate to finally provide peer assessments. So whatever mark the team leader gets, the same mark the team member will also get the same mark. So we are not going to, so the responsibility is transferred to the team leader to ensure that each and every member has equal share of work and nobody is overloaded. So 25 marks for this particular peer assessment through rubrics. The rubric criteria and examples would be given to you, will be released on Monday. In the next video, you will see the detailed process flow in Moodle through which you have to submit details about your OER as well as submit your document for peer review. Thank you.